and welcome to Big Muddy Mayhem, the podcast where we talk about true crime and bad behavior in the Midwest.
Each week we'll bring you one story from the heartland, plus a special thing that might break your heart, but we hope to entertain you along the way.
I'm Tracey Laricha.
And I'm Janet O'Brien.
Hello! Hello, Janet. Welcome to this very special edition of Big Muddy Mayhem.
Special edition.
Special edition. We've got kind of a long story on my end.
Yes.
And then we're going to do what our listeners have asked for, and that is to do a little Q&A. Oh, I'm sorry, they actually asked for TNA.
Well, you know.
I said we won't do that.
Oh.
No.
Are you sure?
That goes behind the paywall, folks. But we've got a Q&A for the afternoon. And in the meantime, I have a story for Janet. Janet, how has your week been, first of all?
It's been okay. I've been a little under the weather with a little bit of a cold, so that's... And the new job has been great. I love it. And the whole time change. So this is giving me an excuse to not do a story this week.
That's all right. And I had kind of an extra long story this week. So this is giving me an excuse to not have to break it up into two parts.
Right, exactly.
So it's our podcast. We can
do what we want.
And I am going to start out in keeping with it being an unfamiliar, untraditional, non-traditional podcast episode. I would normally tell you who we're talking about.
But you're not, are
I'm
you?
not going to do that this
week.
So instead, Janet, let's just talk about kidnapping.
Okay. Oh, sure.
So let's talk about kidnapping.
Don't get in the van with free candy on the side.
No, please don't do that.
Okay.
No. Now, it was kind of a hot crime in the 1930s. Kidnapping had kind of its peak in the 1930s, in part because, we're in the Depression.
Right.
And so people are desperate.
Yep.
And also it's harder to trace things. That was back when you could just hop on a train, plane, or automobile and
nobody would know.
In the wind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And St. Louis, as it turns out, I did not know this, but St. Louis was kind of a hotbed for kidnapping.
Really?
The reasons? Bridge to Illinois. So from downtown, you can be in a whole other state in minutes. Wow. That still holds true. And also right along the Mississippi. So river to anywhere.
Yeah, there's river, there's plane, well, not planes, but trains and automobiles for sure.
Yes, there are trains. We have trains too.
Boats.
So it's a hot spot for kidnapping in St. Louis. And for that, there is a really good book that kind of talks a little bit about this. It's called The Kidnap Years.
Oh, really? Okay.
And it's by David Stout. I have read a little bit of it, but I definitely want to, read the whole entire thing.
Oh, nice.
Also, right now, y'all, please support your libraries.
Yes.
Go and rent a book, get an audiobook. But support your libraries.
Support your libraries.
They need it, and we need them.
Exactly.
All right. So, speaking of kidnapping in St. Louis, we're going to talk to a man named Dr. Isaac Kelly.
Okay.
April 20th, 1931, Dr. Kelly is at home, and it is, by all accounts, kind of a rainy night. It's a rainy spring night. It's the kind of night where it's so good to just curl up with a good book. Mm-hmm. And so that's what he wants to do.
Right.
Right?
I love a rainy night.
Exactly. Oh, hey, Eddie
I
Rabbit,
love a rainy night.
That's not the first time we're going to sing in this episode.
Oh, good.
So Dr. Kelly's, he's at home, he's reading a book and enjoying this rainy, rainy night. Now, he is an ENT, ears, nose, throat specialist, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
What? That's you.
Oh, goodness. So he's going to have a night at home, and he gets a phone call. This is back when you could call your doctor at home.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, because they would make house calls.
He's worried parents. They're visiting from Chicago, and their son has a really bad ear infection.
Oh.
And, I mean, this is before, like, antibiotics. Like, their son has a bad ear infection. And they were like, we didn't know what to do. He's in a lot of pain. We called our doctor in Chicago. This doctor said that we should call you.
Oh, wow.
So he says, all right, well, it's a kid. He's sick. He's in pain. So he drives out to the address that they give him. And the whole house is dark, which is kind of weird for, like, a family with with a kid that is
Yeah,
ill.
Absolutely.
So as he's sitting there outside of the house going, this seems odd, another car pulls up. 2 guys get out. They're both armed. They grab the doctor and they shove him in the back of their car and tell him to lie down on the floor.
Wow.
Uh-huh. So they drive off. And they move him repeatedly. They blindfold him. They kind of go places. They'll stop. They go somewhere else. It's obvious that they're disorienting him.
Right.
And so they finally, and Dr. Kelly is a big, strong guy. He was a World War veteran, World War I veteran. He's 6 foot tall. He's like a big, strong dude.
Oh, wow.
But he's also really smart. And more importantly, he knows how to keep his wits about him, so he stays calm.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Which is a good thing that he can play the long game because, A, he's remembering every single detail that he can.
Yeah.
Mostly they revolve around food. Because they keep this man for almost an entire week.
Oh, my God.
Or a little over. Depending on the story that you read.
Okay.
They keep him for anywhere from like 7 to 9 days.
Okay, wow.
And he says, well, he remembers that the kidnappers made lousy coffee, but they did have good coffee cake, and at least one of them had to be kind of, quote, a pretty good cook, because they're feeding him, and the food is good. They're also really shitty kidnappers.
Oh, no.
They argue with each other about, like, who's going to be in charge of what. I mean, this is just Bumble and Bumble, right? They're trying to figure out how much ransom they should ask for, which you would think is something you determine...
Right.
Before
the
kidnapping. And at one point in time... They even asked the kidnapped Dr. Kelly, well, what would you do? How do you think we should proceed here? And they also keep saying to each other, where the hell is Goldie? Where the hell is Goldie? So, April 27th, the next day, or 1 week later, April 27th, 1931, there's a Post-Dispatch reporter named John Rogers.
Okay.
He has been writing about this missing doctor because there are no clues. Nobody knows why this man just vanished.
He just vanished, right.
He gets a phone call at 1:30 in the morning. On his landline because, well...
Right, that's what we have.
A friend of yours wants to see you.
Okay...
A friend of yours wants to see you, and they give a location. Now, John Rogers is a braver person than I am because he does go out and he goes to the location.
Oh my gosh.
And he pulls up and flashes his lights as he's been instructed.
Oh, wow.
A man with a gun walks up to him and he is leading somebody that is wearing these blacked out goggles.
What?
The armed man then leaves. So, yeah, like, he pulls up, another car, like, whoop, pulls up, dude gets out with a big gun, he's leading somebody by the arm, and he's got somebody, like, wearing goggles that have been, like, taped out.
Oh my God, that's crazy. It looks like out of a
showing
sci-fi
a picture,
movie.
Yeah,
it looks... They're goggles and they have tape on them, like you can't see out of them all.
So he can't see. But they're almost like the swimmer's goggles.
Yes.
So you don't even have the I can peek underneath or anything like that. The armed man leaves and it turns out the kidnapped man is Dr. Kelly standing right there in front of the reporter.
Oh my God.
I mean, it would be weirder if it weren't, but yeah, it's Dr. Kelly. There was never any ransom note documented or asked for. No ransom was collected. Rogers does not even know Kelly.
Oh my gosh.
So the only reason that we can think of that he's been the one implicated is because he's a reporter, like a prominent reporter for the Post-Dispatch, and he's been writing about the story. Dr. Kelly is, again, unharmed and unfazed, it seems like, largely, too.
Like, oh, I just got kidnapped, whatever?
Yeah, wow. NBD. Getting kidnapped, feel cute, might get returned later. So he looks to Rogers when they take off his taped-up blindfold, like goggles, and he says, "My God, that was an experience."
Oh, my God.
So Rogers takes him immediately home to his own house.
Not his house.
Right. To his house, the reporter's house, because he's gonna get this.
He's gonna get the story.
First and foremost.
Right.
It's giving Dorothy
yes,
Kilgallen.
Absolutely.
For those not familiar, go back and listen to the 2 previous episodes and hear a fantastic story.
Yes.
About an intrepid journalist. So, again, so that was the 27th. By the time the paper hits on the evening of the 28th, there is a 3-page story in the Post with all of the details.
Wow.
That Dr. Kelly could recall. And that's where he talks about how they had bad coffee, but really good coffee cake. And he does say that there was one night, the last night before they returned him, they give him some coffee and some coffee cake and bacon and eggs, and they put him in a separate room and let him read, like, a mystery novel.
Oh my gosh.
But he doesn't have anything to recall, really, about the kidnappers other than they were incredibly stupid and they were also wondering about someone named Goldie. And that's it. Good night, Muddy Buddies. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. But our next chapter
okay.
is 3 years later.
Okay.
So 3 years later, in February 1934, our buddy John Rogers, the reporter,
yes,
well, he gets another call out of nowhere. And it's from a man named Adolf Fiedler.
Okay.
Adolf Fiedler, I think I'm saying that right. He owned a combination tavern, dance hall, and pool hall in St. Louis, and he claims that this kidnapping plot was hatched there.
Oh, wow.
And he's, bartenders, we hear everything, we say nothing.
Right.
So he knows all the names. He knows all the details. And he knows that there's a certain high society lady named Mrs. N.
Oh.
That is involved in this case.
Interesting. What was that lady's name they kept saying?
Goldie.
Oh, Goldie, sorry.
Is what they were saying. But there's a Mrs. N that's involved in this. Now, why is he selling this information now?
Right.
3 years later?
Seems a little suspicious.
Well, the newspapers are really uncharitable when they talk about this. Fielders is, first of all, very obese.
Oh, okay.
According to everything that I read, he is somewhere between 300 and 500 pounds.
Wow.
So the papers are like, well, he must be doing it because he can't afford the price of his food. And, just really shitty.
Yeah.
You hear so much of that in these old papers. Like, boy, they all make comments on somebody's weight or their looks or their chin.
Yes,
or stuff.
Exactly.
And then you take a look at these reporters and you're just like, well, you're a fine one to talk, aren't you?
Right.
But really, in all actuality, what's probably happening is his business is failing. It's 1934.
Yeah.
Nobody has good times kind of money.
No.
So a dance hall, pool hall, tavern is not doing so great.
Right.
We're in the heart of the Great Depression, and the Post is willing to pay him $1,000 for this story.
Oh, wow.
So I looked it up, and if the first Google search website that I got to is correct, that would be $2,355 today.
Oh, wow.
So that's a lot.
Yeah, that is.
I mean, that's, woof. I mean, that's like a month's worth of pay for a lot of people.
Exactly.
And especially for somebody who's, working in, like, owning a tavern and kind of, like, working with a slim margin to begin with.
Right. No, that would be helpful.
So, Fiedler names names. It's kind of a handful of low-level gangsters, all of whom will eventually be convicted. And as promised, a society matron.
Ooh.
Who, well, you'll see. Her name is Nellie Tipton Marshall.
Ah.
Now, Nellie Tipton is born, she's born Nellie Tipton, her maiden name, born to a well-respected family in Mexico, Missouri, and they are just kind of a family of overachievers.
Ah.
So, her father is a Baptist minister. Her brother is, in school, a football and track star, just really, really good. After school, he goes on, he still is coaching football, but mostly he becomes a lawyer, and then later a Missouri Supreme Court Justice in Jefferson City.
Wow.
Now, Nellie is no slouch either. She's very bright. Her family is well enough that she's sent off to Stevens College in Columbia.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And she is known for being bright, vivacious, and musically talented.
Nice.
So, while in school at Stevens, she meets a student at Mizzou. I mean...
Yeah, well, they're right next to each other, practically.
Tale as old as time, and Stevens was the girls' school.
Yep.
She meets Ludwig Minch, who is an aspiring doctor and also a very talented cellist.
Oh, okay.
So they start making some beautiful music together. They elope.
Oh, wow.
Which, that was kind of the weird part for me. I'm like, I don't know why that would be the case. They could have probably just married, but they elope.
Okay.
And then they will go back to St. Louis so that Ludwig can finish getting his medical degree at WashU.
Okay.
So he becomes a full-on doctor, and then later gets a job working as the medical examiner for an insurance company.
Okay.
What do you think about that? Where are we? Who do we like?
So he's making money by being the medical examiner on people who are deceased. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, they move into a nice house on Washington Avenue in the Central West End.
Yeah.
Those big, old, gorgeous stone homes. I should have pulled up a picture of that, but I didn't.
That's okay.
But you know what they look like.
Yes, absolutely.
The Central West End, for those of you outside of St. Louis, is still a very well-to-do neighborhood.
Right.
Has always kind of been a well-to-do neighborhood.
And they have big mansions.
Big mansions,
but
gorgeous.
They're old mansions.
Old houses, lots of, like, really beautiful brickwork.
Right.
Curved front, like, turrets and windows and stuff like that. Really very pretty. Nellie settles in mostly into being a housewife, although she does raise Chow Chow show dogs.
Very cute.
I know. In her gorgeous Midwest, Central West End home.
Yeah.
She raises Chow Chows. They have lavish parties. She throws a good dinner party. She's talented in music as well, so she sings and she plays the piano, and her husband accompanies her on the cello. Life is good, but Nellie is really bored.
Oh, yeah.
She gets herself talked about a few different times. First things first. In 1919, she is suspected of stealing jewelry out of a hotel room.
Uh-oh.
In 1920, she's implicated in forging letters in an attempt to commit estate fraud.
Oh, wow.
Like, claims to be the inheritor of an estate, and like...
She's not.
And she's not. And none of it sticks to her at all. They think that, she is this, like, well-to-do society matron. She doesn't need the money. Why would she be doing all of this?
Right.
In 1923, Nellie finally finds a project. She opens up her own shop. She borrows $50,000 to do it, and it is super elegant, and so she launches what is called Mitzi's.
Mitzi's?
Mitzi's on Euclid in the Central West End. Pardon me one moment.
Yes.
We're going to have to evict a cat, as always. If there's one thing you can count on, it's water.
Right. I am sorry, I keep coughing. Oh my goodness. Cat has been evicted.
All right. We'll see if his brother makes an appearance.
Right.
Alrighty. But anyway, so she opens up Mitzi's on Euclid in the West End. She is procuring and selling high-end fashion, helping women pick ensembles, people that don't know how to dress or that need to learn how to dress. This is the roaring 20s, right? So it's 1923. You know,
absolutely.
People have coin to spend.
Yes, they do.
And she can help them spend it. High dollar items for high dollar society ladies. Some of them are socialites and wealthy wives. Some of them are high-end brothel workers.
Oh,
Good time girls. So you could theoretically be shopping there and bump elbows or look at the same dress with the sex worker that is sleeping with your husband. Also, I found out that Nellie also at some points sends invoices to recent widows for lingerie that their now late husbands had purchased.
Oh my God.
Or maybe didn't.
Wow.
And so, but the widows pay up because
they want to keep it under...
Yes.
Under the... Yeah, they don't want to...
You need to keep it quiet, right? So the widows will just pay it.
Wow.
So, yeah. Sneaky. Nellie also borrows jewelry from some of the other shops so that her customers will be... Just like when you go to the Oscars, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You need to see how your fit's going to look with, you know, with some jewels. So she borrows some shops and she's like, oh, if you let me borrow these pieces, the women can try them on. This will go so beautifully with this collection.
Right.
And then they might just buy the piece from you. It's a perfect cross promotion. So everything's going along all right until 1925, when of these jewels, she claims a robber comes in.
And
he takes about $12,000 worth of these items. And then she quotes, she hit him on the head with her purse and he ran off.
I don't know.
Do we believe that?
I don't know.
Now, there was briefly a suspect that was detained and questioned, but there's nothing to think that he did it. So he's released and those jewels were never recovered.
Wow.
Her shop goes bankrupt in 1928. Nellie blames her lenders. She says that she was being charged 46% interest on loans that she had taken out.
Oh, wow.
We don't know if this is really all true or not, but for whatever reason, we just know 1928, Mitzi's is finished.
Right.
Mitzi's is done. So now that we've taken that little side trip, let's get back to Adolf Fielder and his story and the trial.
Right.
Because remember, he knew who had committed these crimes.
Right, exactly.
Well, Nellie and company are all taken in, and they're asked about their roles, I guess, in the kidnapping. And so these four guys on the bottom, like low-level gangsters...
yeah, they look like gangsters.
They're all tried and committed in St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
And then Nellie, though, because she's had a little bit of a checkered past, her lawyer says, my goodness, there's absolutely no way she can get a fair trial here in St. Louis. We're going to have to move the trial out of St. Louis.
Oh, my gosh.
Because she has had all of these scandalous, items in her past, and none of them were ever proven.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So how can she get a fair trial?
Right.
She might be, innocent until proven guilty, correct?
Right, exactly.
Right. So, in the interest of making it fair, they moved the trial to Mexico, Missouri.
Okay. Where she's from.
Where she's from, and where her dad is the big-time famous minister.
Huh. I wonder what they're going to do there.
And it's located 45 minutes away from Jefferson City, Missouri, where her big brother is a Missouri Supreme Court justice.
Wow.
We're doing this so there can be a fair trial.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Right? But while we're waiting for the trial to get started, they're moving everything around, Nellie has some big news.
Mm.
Nellie's pregnant. After 20-odd years of marriage, for the very first time, Nellie is gonna have a baby.
I don't really believe that.
She's 42.
You can get pregnant at that age.
You can get pregnant at 42. But she does. She has a beautiful little baby boy with pretty red hair just like hers.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. And so when the trial takes place, she has an easy pregnancy. Apparently her friends, like the friends that saw her, were like, oh my gosh. Like, she was never ill. Like, she barely showed at all. And she's got this beautiful little baby boy. And so she bravely goes to the trial. And she faces the jury, sitting at the stand with this little angel in her arms, on her lap. And she says, God has sent him to bless me in my time of distress.
Oh, my God. Okay.
So, of course. How do you think this trial goes?
Oh, yeah, I mean, she's going to get off.
She gets acquitted. Yeah, absolutely. So she goes back to St. Louis with her husband and their new little baby. And that's it. The end. Good night, buddies.
No, it's not.
It's not Dr. Munch's kid. It's also not Nellie's kid.
That's what I figured.
Mm-hmm. So the baby had been purchased from an unwed mother that was a domestic servant from Pennsylvania.
Oh, my God.
Her lawyer, who was very, very slick, made the purchase with the help of an accomplice named Skinny Jones. They bring the baby to Nellie, who promptly dyes the baby's hair red to match hers.
Oh, my God.
And then takes her living prop straight up to the courtroom.
Wow.
Now, Nellie's husband goes along with all of this because, you know, he does love his wife.
Sure.
Even though she's what you could call a handful. And he's a doctor with doctor friends. One of them, Dr. Marsh Pitzman, helps forge the birth certificate, the birth records, so that it says, like, yep, this is the baby of Ludwig and Nellie Munch. Dr. Pitzman is also a hunk, an eligible bachelor, and a very close friend of Nellie's.
Oh.
So you would think that would be the complicated part.
It's not, is it?
It's not. You would know. So the complications start when the baby's mom shows back up.
Uh-oh. Oops.
And she's decided she wants her baby back, baby, back, baby, back, baby. Her name is Anna Ware.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anna Ware, and the baby was supposed to have been given up to go to what she thought was going to be a nice couple in Tennessee.
Oh, no.
But she sees this stuff in the paper, and she's like, I think that's my baby. I think that's my baby. And she can't kind of track down what happened.
I wonder if she went through that same lady that I did that thing on in Tennessee.
I don't believe so. That name did not...
That is so crazy.
Did not come up. But I think she was maybe thinking it was going to go to that lady in
Probably.
Tennessee.
Wow.
But instead it was the lawyer and Skinny Jones that go in and grab this baby. And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely, sure. We'll take him. We'll take him. He'll get there safe. It's a good thing that you're doing. So just like that, Nellie's in the papers again. She starts pestering Pitzman for money to help her kind of fight these very true accusations. You know, so Ludwig, her husband, he knows it's not his baby. He knows it's not Nellie's baby because he knows, like, his wife wasn't pregnant for 9 months. Right? Pitzman does not know these things. He thinks that it's Nellie's baby because they had a thing going on, but I think it was like kind of off and on, distance plays a part, so they get hot and heavy, but not all the time. He believes it to be Nellie's baby. He also believes that it's his baby.
Oh, no.
So when Nellie starts extorting him, like, over and over, like, I need money to fight this. I need money to fight this. I'm going to tell everyone.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to expose that this is your child.
Wow.
Finally, he calls her bluff, comes clean, and since all of these extortion letters went through the USPS, she gets hung up on, this gets so many scoundrels in this day. Same thing with, what's his name? Edwards? E.G. Edwards?
Yes, yeah.
They finally get her on mail fraud.
Oh, my God.
So she's arrested. Ludwig is arrested, along with her lawyer and along with Skinny Jones.
Wow.
The trial is set up in Cape Girardeau. I think that might have been where Pitzman was. I don't know why the trial was in Cape, but that's where it was. Yeah. So this time in court, though, Janet...
Please tell me she doesn't show up with another baby.
No, although, quick little side note, this wasn't the first baby that she bought.
Oh, my God.
She initially did buy a baby out of Chicago. That baby got taken to St. Louis, but that was a very, very sickly child that they bought from an infant hospital, or an infant...
Oh, my God.
Doctor or whatever, and that baby died, pretty much as soon as it got to St. Louis, so they had to go out and buy a second one.
Wow.
And that is the biggest bummer in this story, and so we're just going to keep that as a side. Right. So this time in court, we have an up-and-coming special prosecutor.
Okay.
This man is committed to truth and justice. He wants to see Nellie behind bars. It is his mission to see that this woman, who he's fully convinced is a fraud, is convicted. And that man's name was Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, my God.
Grandfather to the happily dead now radio blowhard that we all know and hate.
Yes. Oh, my
Burn
God.
in hell, Rush! This time the first trial does end in a mistrial because one of the jurors was bribed and said, oh yeah, they offered me money to deadlock the jury.
Oh my God.
So so the first trial is mistrial, goes back to trial a second time. This time Nellie is convicted. So yay! Nellie gets 10 years in prison. Ludwig gets 8, even though Nellie claims that he wasn't involved at all.
Oh wow.
Okay. She is also fined $450 for the crime itself and an additional $25 for an outburst in court. And in addition to that, they do have to give the baby back. So the baby is reunited with Anna Ware. Eventually that red hair dye is going to wear off.
Yes.
So Skinny and the lawyer both get... lesser sentences. I'm sure that the lawyer probably loses their right to practice.
Oh, I'm sure.
And a few days after her conviction, Nellie publishes her confession. She claims that she never meant to fleece Pitzman, that she was really only working this baby angle because she thought that a baby might keep him with her because, you see, she's in love with him. She's always been in love with him. She's still in love with him. She wants them to be together. So she did what she had to do to try and hold on to the affections of her one true love.
Oh my God.
Who's not her husband.
Who's not her
So this confession, imagine this. It's read in the paper from his jail cell by Ludwig.
Oh my gosh.
Who had no idea whatsoever that his wife had been having an affair.
Wow. So he reads it out of the newspaper.
So he's sitting you're already in jail for helping your wife, your loving wife, that you would do anything for, right? So you're lying to help cover up a crime, and then you get sentenced to jail, but that's all right because, love conquers all, and then you're sitting in your jail cell.
And find out it's not you.
And find out it's not you that she loves.
Wow.
That, she had been blackmailing this other doctor, so a colleague as well. And he really thought it was his baby. He has been screwing your wife often enough that he thinks this kid could be his. And, would you like another cup of coffee with your paper? You turn to your cellie and you're like, could you please pass me the funnies?
Right.
Ludwig finally files for divorce. We have found his line in the sand.
There's the
finally,
line.
Right? Post-sentence, Ludwig will move back to his hometown of Washington, Missouri. Post-sentence, Nellie changes her name, goes to Kansas City, and lives a relatively, undiscovered and, low-key life until she dies in August of 1982.
Wow.
At the age of 91. And, Janet...
Tracy.
Did any of the pieces of this story sound a little familiar to you at all?
A little, but just a little.
The whole courtroom spectacle. The baby. You might remember parts of this story because Notorious Nellie is the inspiration for a little musical called Chicago. And that is the story of Notorious Nellie Munch.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know. I was going to say, this one was so fun. When I was telling my, bare bones to Ryder, I swear, I was hoping he wouldn't get it too early.
No.
Because I started telling him last night, and 5 minutes in, he's just like, God, this sounds like Chicago.
Oh, my God!
So he got there early.
Oh, my God.
Like he always does.
Wow.
And my sources today, Fact or Fiction Podcast, the MunchFamilyAssociation.com, more on that in a moment. Bill Lotka's book, St. Louis Crime Chronicles, again, the book by David Stout, The Kidnap Years, and becker.washu.edu that has information about Dr. Munch.
Wow.
And, the bit about the Munch family. So I found, some family genealogy, and, just details of famous people in their family. And her brother, the famous Supreme Court Justice.
Yeah.
His son weighed in and was like, oh, yeah, they had, kind of a toxic relationship, brother and sister. He loved his little sister so much. And then once he got married... He's like, every time Aunt Nell would come over, she would just try to drive a wedge in between husband and wife, was overbearing with the children to the point that finally her brother did entirely cut her off.
Wow.
Don't come around here no more.
She was just a bad person.
Don't call me. She was just sometimes you have a family member that just interferes in your relationship.
Right, exactly.
And it becomes so toxic that you have to choose between your family of origin or your family of creation.
Right.
And that's kind of what happened to her brother.
That is crazy.
But yeah, so
that was a great story.
That is my story, and I know it was a long one.
No, that was wonderful.
But that was that's what we've got. And as soon as I heard it was the lady that inspired Chicago, I'm just like, oh. And then when I got to Rush Limbaugh, I just fell straight out.
Oh my God, you're like, wait, what?
So there we go. There you
that
have
was
it.
Wonderful. I loved it.
Thank you. Awesome.
So, do we want to do our special thing after the commercial? Did you have a What's Nice? I have not.
I do have a What's Nice.
I have not asked Tracy anything tonight.
I do have a What's Nice. Do we want to just roll with it and do our Q&As? Or do you want to take a little pause and come back with those and then do What's Nice?
Why don't we go ahead and roll with the Q&A?
All right, let's roll with it.
Why not?
On-air production.
Here we go. So we have questions that listeners have given us. I always want to say
viewers. If they are viewers, they're probably in my closet like the guy from last week.
Oh my gosh. So,
First question is from listener Blue, who wants to know when she can have a cookie. Or
Right?
viewer Bluebell, who wants to know when she can have a cookie, and also viewer Walker, who wants to know when he can be let up from the basement.
Exactly.
The answer for both of them is after we're done with this. All right, but questions from our listeners.
Sure. So, the first question we have is, what story or stories would you never do?
Let's see.
I know Tracy has given me a couple that she's
I have
mentioned.
a couple. I won't do Chain of Rocks Bridge because I went to school and grew up with the family, and so I feel like I'm just
a little too close.
A little too close to it. So for the same reason, I would never do anything about Bob Castley.
Yeah.
You know, having worked at the City Museum, anything about that, like I feel like, again, too close to the topic. And I guess my final one that I would never do, and I think you and I have talked about it last week when we did the sneaky Spider-Man. I could never do Otto in the Attic.
Oh,
because
it was done way too well.
Done too well. It was just too perfect.
Right.
We could never improve upon that.
Yeah, we would just laugh and laugh and laugh. And then you would get hiccups, and then that would be the end. And I might cough and sneeze a lot.
That's right.
Fine.
How about you, Janet? Are there any stories that are just like solid no-goes for you?
So I have a kind of no, because I don't know how. There's ways that I've thought about doing it, and that is Mike Brown.
Oh.
I am. If listeners don't know, I am from Ferguson, and shortly after that happened, there were some people that I ran into who would say horrible things about Ferguson, and I'm like, you are not from there.
It is a cute town. It is a
cute
lovely
little
town. I've been with you to the 4th of July parade out there, which is fantastic.
And I have really great information on it, but it's a little touchy. It can be touchy, touch and go. So I have not marked it off complete no, but it's just the kind of no.
But it's kind of one that every time you start to look at it, you're just like,
there's so much in it.
Yeah.
There's like videos in it that you would have to see, like videos that people normally don't see. That I don't know. I'm not going to give it away because maybe I'll do it eventually.
Okay,
but
that's the
Mike
one
Brown
that
is
on
Ferguson
your...
it's in my heart, you know.
Don't touch now.
Right, exactly. And then probably, I think you and I have talked about what's her name, Pam
Hop.
Oh, that's one. I think you and I have talked about maybe something, but that one's going to be a digging one for sure.
It would be a digging one. I think that almost would need to be one that we like tackled together.
Right, exactly.
And did just like, it would be the 1 week where we did know each other's stories, because we would have to kind of break it up and take it bite by bite.
Right. And then I'm trying to think if there's any other stories that just go, no, I don't want to do that. Anything where there's a lot of children dying, those are really hard in general.
To this day, you know that the Jared Haddadero case is the hardest one I've ever had to do. Like,
so bad. I mean, when it involves children, and I mean, I have heard so many bad stories and watched things. I mean, I am an avid listener and watcher of anything true crime, but there's some lines where I'm like, you know what? I don't need to be that depressed today.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's a million of them out there. You can find something that isn't going to just make you cry.
Exactly.
All righty.
So I have another question here. What's a story outside of the Midwest you wish you could do? Hands down,
I've got one. I can only think of one, but this one, hands down, Maura Murray.
Maura Murray?
Maura Murray. She was, and it was up east somewhere. College student. She writes to her professors, says she has a family emergency. She loads up her car. She takes off. Her car gets stuck like in a snowdrift. Somebody comes by. There's no cell service. He's like, hey, do you need me to call someone? She's like, oh no, I've got somebody coming. she had sent her boyfriend, I think, an email, like, breaking up with him. I'm probably not remembering all of the details. Mm-hmm. But they find her car. There is some liquor in it, like some wine and I think a bottle of, like, vodka or whatnot. But there's also all of her school books and notes she had been taking.
Oh, wow.
And there's one set of footprints that leads from the car. No other tire tracks, no nothing. It is, I hate an unsolved case, but I also love an unsolved case. And that one, like, man, it's right up there with, like, John Bonet, where you're just like, what in the actual hell happened
right,
here?
Exactly.
So Maura Murray is the one that if it had happened in the Midwest,
sure,
I would be on that, like, white on rice.
Right.
But yeah, like that.
That's your top
That's
story.
mine.
It would be Torn, and I think the first one I'm going to mention would just be almost impossible to research because it's just too far away. The Salem witch trials.
Oh,
I would love to do some Salem witch trials. That would be fun. And then on the opposite side, Natalie Wood.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, if our younger listeners are listening,
if you don't know who Natalie Wood
look up Robert Wagner.
And look up Natalie Wood because she was so amazingly talented. She played Maria in the movie production of West Side Story. Was it Christopher Walken?
Yeah, he was on the boat too.
He was on the boat too.
Yeah.
She was scared to death of water from, like, an early age. And she somehow allegedly went, like, out on a dinghy in the middle of the night after a big drunken fight with her husband.
And
they find her in the water the next day.
Yep. So who the hell knows what happened there? Same
thing, West Coast. The other one that I would like to do is is it Elisa Lam? The one that, like, where they have the video of her in the elevator.
Oh,
and then they find her in the water tower.
Yes, on top of the hotel.
On top of a really famous, like, fancy hotel. I don't think it was the Hotel Cecil. I can't remember.
No, yeah, it's in L.A.
But in Los Angeles.
Right.
That is another one that has always kind of, like, piqued my interest. But it's outside of our geographical location.
Right.
So.
And then I think the third one, which I think every true crime podcast is touched, is Scott Lacey.
Oh.
Yeah. Scott and Lacey.
Scott and Lacey Peterson.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. That's a good one,
That's a good one, because he's messed up.
So there are luckily many other fantastic, amazing true crime podcasts that do cover stuff outside of the Midwest. So if you want to hear about those stories, like, go dig around, listen to them.
So our third question is...
Third question.
What would you podcast about if you didn't talk about true crime and bad behavior? Mine's going to be weird.
Okay. Go ahead. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
All right.
Puppets.
A puppet podcast?
Well, not a podcast, a YouTube podcast with video.
Oh, done by puppets.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be...
Puppets.
What would the topic be? Would it
I don't know.
the same thing, but you would do it with puppets.
I have loved puppets since I was a very small child. Do you know how, like, a lot of kids have imaginary friends?
Uh-huh.
And you can't see them or whatever? Mine was on my hand.
Oh, okay.
His name was Pluggo.
Pluggo the puppet?
He was a hand puppet, like this, and if you hit him in his face, his mouth would go like this, like you plugged his nose.
Like,
yeah.
Just scrunched up?
Pluggo. That was my...
Janet, please tell me we have photos of Pluggo
maybe somewhere.
Maybe? Does your mom listen?
Sometimes, yes.
Mama Janet, could you please find us some photos of Pluggo, please? It's me, I'm asking. So, Pluggo the puppet.
Yeah, that is really the only thing I've ever thought about doing anything else. It was just completely way off from what we do now. You know what I mean?
Would you pick a puppet that looked like Pluggo, or would there be different puppets?
There would be different puppets.
You would have different puppets.
Absolutely.
How many puppets do you think you would need to be able to tell your story? I mean, obviously, 2 at a time, unless you have somebody helping.
So you should ask me the question of how many puppets do you already have? That is the question you're not asking.
Janet?
I have at least 10.
Janet? Oh. It's weird that we've done this crime podcast together for a little over a year, and I haven't been freaked out about it by all, but now I found out that my podcast partner has at least 10 puppets. So, tell me.
Oh my God. I can't stop laughing. I'm coughing so much.
Tell me you could be replaced without telling me you could be replaced. I'm going to sleep with one eye open from now on.
You're not clowns.
All right. I know I'm not scared of clowns, but I am scared of your 10 puppets, Janet.
Oh, Tracy's totally getting some random messages.
Oh, dear God. Oh, don't. No. Like, you have a new text from Pluggo.
Oh, right. Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
So those are your 3 questions.
My story is going to be a little bit milquetoast, or my answer...
what's yours?
All right. Well, because I am not a sociopath with a closet full of puppets, I think I would like to do... if I had a different podcast, I have always said that I am kind of a little jealous of the people that do TV recap podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have to do as much research.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I would either jump on the bandwagon of doing something like Below Deck or The Traitors.
Yeah, right.
Or my other thought is that everybody, when they find out, I don't know if you get this too, when people find out that you do a podcast, the very first thing is like, oh, that's so cool. And the very second thing is they start telling you what you should do for your podcast or what they would do a podcast about.
Right, exactly.
So I would do something like, what would you pod about? That would just be like every week I would have a different person on to talk about what they would pod about.
Oh, that would be fun.
And then maybe do like a little bit of a, all right, let's do a little mini story. You bring one, I'll bring one on this topic.
Right.
And then, so yeah. So mine would either be, because anybody that knows me knows that I listen to almost exclusively podcasts.
She does.
This is my...
She runs out sometimes.
It's my form of entertainment. So I would do a podcast about podcasts, or I would probably, if I had to pick a TV show, I would recap Below Deck, and I would get Megan and Justin on board because they're both big fans of the show.
Yeah.
And we have like a weekly text thread where we're just like, oh my God, can you believe it? So those are mine. Not very creepy. And Janet, you have some questions too? Or
I think I only had really one question because I think we had some pretty good ones.
We had some overlap there, yeah.
We had some good questions. I think the my last question is, I don't know if we've asked this before. I'm pretty sure we asked what our favorite podcast was, but that was a while ago when we asked.
It was.
That. So currently, what is your favorite podcast that we did? And that's going to go on to a 2-parter. Oh. So what that we've done recently.
Ooh. The best one that we've done recently. I honestly, for mine, this is the easy answer, but I feel like the last episodes that we did were
they were amazing.
Amongst my favorite. I really liked the Sneaky Spider-Man.
Yes.
And I loved the 2-parter on Dorothy Kilgallen.
Yeah, Dorothy. Oh
like,
my
that
goodness.
was fantastic. I've talked about that with friends and stuff over the last week or so. Otherwise, gosh, like, man, of the ones that we've done all together, I think still my favorite of mine, at least, is still Elmer McCurdy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Elmer McCurdy always ends up on my list. It's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, it's hard to beat. And
I used to say Ma Barker was my favorite
Ma
one.
Barker of yours was great. That's the one that I picked when we did our, like, best of.
Right, yeah. So Ma Barker, but then The Dorothy one, I can't even get off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am still in Dorothy land, and probably that's why I kind of had a little struggle this week, because that was so good. There was so much around her.
And you did a lot of research for that.
Oh,
there was
my
that
goodness.
15-hour audiobook and all of that stuff. Yeah, I know you really leaned in on that one, which it was so good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing that a lot. And then my other question is, what is your favorite podcast that's not our podcast?
Oh, gosh. I will always say The Dollop.
Right.
I also always will shout out Hollywood Crime Scene. For recap podcasts, there's one called Bad TV.
Oh.
Which, if you watch any kind of reality TV, they cover all kinds of different shows. I think Traders, Housewives. It's a lot of Bravo stuff, but then they do other things as well. They are just, Dylan and Pat are hilariously funny, and I enjoy listening to them. And the one that I've been listening to most recently, that I've subscribed and I get so excited when there's a new episode, is Ridiculous Crime.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about that.
I told you about, so the most recent episode of Ridiculous Crime, I've texted a couple of my friends about this. It's all about people that scammed other people by pretending to be Bootsy Collins.
Yes! I have not listened to it yet.
Oh, it's so funny. And the one host does, the most perfect Bootsy impersonation that you have ever heard in your entire life.
Oh, my God.
I was cackling through the whole thing. So Ridiculous Crime is another really, really good one.
Nice.
To listen to. How about you? What pods do you like?
One of my favorite true crime podcasts that is not ours is Betrayal Weekly.
Okay.
And I started listening to Something Was Wrong. But we like Tracey and I discovered, it's pretty one-sided. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the problem with that. It's the first season and first two seasons are amazing, but after a while it just kind of...
You're like, they come at it with what feels like an agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Betrayal Weekly,
mm-hmm.
it kind of gives you a little bit of both sides. You get to hear some stuff, and so that one I really enjoy. And then, of course, Sounds Like a Cult. Mm-hmm. So it talks about anything cult-ish.
Oh, okay.
So, like Pampered Chef.
Which is kind of a cult.
Exactly.
It's an MLM. Yeah, it was an MLM.
Right. So those are really the two that I enjoy listening to. And so I had so I had the three questions. I had favorite, and then...
we've gone through...
I think we've done all of them. I was trying to think of one more question.
Confession time. I did throw a Pampered Chef party when I was in my 20s after having gone to a Pampered Chef party, because that's why they want you to go, is so they can get you to throw the party.
Pyramid scam.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute. That does bring... Okay, there is another... It's not a podcast, but it is on YouTube, and there is this gal that wants to take all the MLMs down. Yeah, and so I've been listening to her a lot. She's really amazing. And I'm Hannah. Her name is Hannah Alonso.
Okay.
And she does a podcast. If you can see her right here, she's the blonde lady.
Oh, okay.
She lives with her cat and her child, and their husband. He's in the military, so he's gone often.
Right.
But she's single-handedly.
Okay.
And she doesn't, when she brings up other MLMs.
Is there a name for her channel, or is it just Hannah Alonso?
Hannah Alonso.
Hannah Alonso.
And she feels bad for them, because she knows they're being duped.
Right, absolutely.
It's like, but when they double down and start going off on her, she's like, I'm just pointing out what's actually happening.
Fantastic. Well, I will give that a listen as well. So we've got some suggestions for you, but I hope that you guys still remain our Muddy Buddies and keep listening to us. And that reminds me that it's time for us to take a little break.
Time to take a little break.
I am going to take Janet out back and ask her a few questions of my own, like, where did that baby come from? And we'll be back briefly with What's Nice.
We'll be back with What's Nice.
Hey, Muddy Buddies, Tracey here. Just reminding you again this week with ways that you can help support the podcast. If you want to make a monetary donation, you can go to Buy Me a Coffee and look for Big Muddy Mayhem. You can either make one-time donations if it's an episode you really enjoy, or you can become a monthly sponsor. But what we're really looking for and what will really help us to grow our audience is engagement with you. We want you to actually get down in the mud with us. So if you're listening on YouTube, please do leave us a comment in the comments section. If you have suggestions for stories that you'd like us to do, it's bigmuddymayhem@gmail.com. Again, bigmuddymayhem@gmail.com. We want your suggestions for stories that we can cover, and we want your stories. One thing Janet and I would like to do in the months ahead is have an episode or two where we read some of the spooky, creepy, bad behavior, true crime stories that you have. Do you have an uncle that was kind of sketchy? We'd like to hear about it. And we'll keep you anonymous if you'd like. So please send those again to bigmuddymayhem@gmail.com. Leave those comments in the comments section. And please do keep tuning in to listen to us. And now we're going to get back with What's Nice. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back for What's Nice here.
So we only have one this evening.
We only have one, but it is twice as nice.
Yes.
So I think it is really good. And I had to look up to make sure we hadn't done this before because it is one of the nicer places in St. Louis and something that is dear to my heart. We're going to talk about Left Bank Books.
Bookstore.
Bank Books. It is in the Central West End, which is the very posh neighborhood where Nellie and Ludwig lived. But these days, Left Bank Books is a queer, woman-owned, independent bookstore.
Yay!
We need all of those things.
Exactly.
We need queer representation. We need women represented. We need independently owned businesses, not by billionaires. And we also need bookstores.
Right.
It was opened in 1969 by a group of WashU graduate students. Sorry, Blue has lost a cookie underneath a cart, and she is. Would you if you just want to roll that away so that she can get under there? She has lost something. All right.
Anyway,
all better?
Yes.
Okay. Well, queer woman-owned independent bookstore opened in 1969 by some WashU graduate students. It is the oldest and largest independent bookstore in St. Louis. And it's also located in an area called Writer's Corner. Writer's Corner is this little area in the Central West End where you can see busts and bios of 4 different prominent St. Louis authors on each corner, and Left Bank Books is on one of those corners. And I'm not going to talk about the Writer's Corner because that will probably be another What's Nice sometime soon. I was looking to see. I didn't have the screenshot that I thought I had. It's okay.
It's okay.
They also produce over 300 events a year.
Oh, wow.
So they have author signings. They have, poetry readings, all kinds of things. And then also just sort of neighborhood events and stuff like that. They are key to the community. They really are a keystone to that community. One of the things that they do support is the River City Readers Program. They distribute books to low-income schools and kids in poverty. The kids get a book every other month, and it's theirs to keep.
Oh, wow.
So they can start to have their own library.
Nice.
I don't know about you, but there are some books that I just always want a copy of because it's a friend, it's a comfort, it's something you can go back to and just open up and read and fall right back into that familiar story.
Absolutely.
Right. So they do that. Their core values listed on the website: peace, racial justice, civil rights, urban sustainability, education, animal rights, and support for the arts. I am 1,000% behind all of those things.
Yes.
So good for them for being that voice in the community and using their platform to support those things.
Right.
Also, My favorite thing about Left Bank Books.
What is that, Tracy?
Ever since 1990, there's been a bookstore cat.
Aww.
Their very first one in 1990 was a cat that the owners saved it from drowning. I don't know the story, but they saved a little kitten from drowning, and he came to live at the shop for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And his name was Nemo.
Aww.
And then the most recent one, there have been several, but the most recent one is named Orleans.
Aww.
And he is a little black cat that is very friendly and likes to come out and greet the shoppers at the bookstore.
Oh my goodness.
And you know, I'm a sucker for a bookstore and a black cat. So, and also literary things, and also the West End, and also St. Louis, and all of that stuff. So,
oh my goodness.
So for my money, what's very, very nice in the Central West End is Left Bank Books.
Yes, I love that place.
And
loved it.
That my source was just their website, which is left-bank.com. Go check it out. If you live here, go visit.
They do deliver books.
They do deliver books. If you're here in St. Louis, go pet Orleans and tell him he's a very, very sweet boy. And if you're outside of St. Louis, the next time you're looking to order a book, Bezos doesn't need any more money.
No.
Maybe order from a large, queer-owned, woman-owned, independent bookstore.
Right.
All right. Well, this is the time of night where we start to say goodnight.
I know. And I think there's something we're supposed to say.
There is one more thing that we need to remember to say, and that our commenters have been leaving in the YouTube's comments section, so thank you very much for that. And that is that we need to do what, Janet?
Stay Midwest nice.
Stay Midwest nice.